5-9 The Zone. Our NFL coverage is brought to you by the amazing burgers and wings. An ice-cold Stella Artois at Martin's in Livingston. They're ready for you for game day, whether it's tonight with the Bengals and the Ravens. I can't wait to hear what Steve Palazzolo has to say about this. Or on Sunday or Monday, wings, burgers, nachos, Stella Artois, Martin's in Livingston. And our NFL coverage is brought to you by Martin's in Livingston. We welcome in Steve Palazzolo. Check the Mic is his new show. It's on YouTube. It's on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And Steve P. joins us on the Farm Bureau Insurance Guest Line. How you doing, buddy?
Doing great. Thanks for having me, as always.
All right, so your Bengals in your backyard are what's going on here? I mean, we left them for dead, and now, you know, they're playing better football. Can they? I mean, the Ravens are good, but are they going to? I don't know. Make a run is not where I'm going, Steve P. But we left them for dead. Is there still some life left in this team for 2024?
Well, there should be. You know, it's one of those things when you're 6, 7, 8 weeks into the season and a team has a record and you over-exaggerate exactly what the record means sometimes, and you go back and it's like, man, this team was 1 or 2 plays away from 2 wins and they became losses. I feel like that's Cincinnati. You know, they were like 1 bad pass interference away from beating the Chiefs, you know, 1 unbelievable Jaden Daniels throw away from beating Washington. So they're better than their record, but they're running out of time, I think, Cincinnati. And the issue for them has been the defense. You know, the when the Bengals were going to AFC championships, going to the Super Bowl, they had a very good offense, a healthy Joe Burrow with dudes to throw to. They overcame a poor offensive line, and the defense was good, like game week to week. It wasn't elite, but it was good week to week. They could game plan. They could keep them in games. And they've just gotten wrecked this year against good offenses. So that's the biggest issue for Cincinnati. It hasn't shown up as much in recent weeks, but again, when they go up against good teams, it's like good defensive performance against the Giants, they give up almost 40 to the Eagles. You know, good defensive performance against the Raiders, well, here, you know, we got to go to Baltimore now. So I don't have much hope, I don't think, for Cincinnati's defense stopping this Ravens offense, and I think we're looking at a shootout here tonight.
Oh, a shootout for Thursday night football. It's Ravens -6. Yeah, you know, when you're trying to get back on track, you don't want to pull the Ravens because they are so good and they win and they're at home. So this isn't the ideal scenario is where you're going to basically to try to go 5-5, but there's a good chance they'll be 4-6 late tonight, right?
I think there's a good chance, yeah. And the Ravens are so fascinating because we watch them week to week, and it's like, wow, they dominated some really good teams. They did that last year. Remember, they crushed the Lions at home, and they crushed the Niners on Christmas night, and they were the 2 best teams and the 2 hottest teams in the NFL. And they crushed the Dolphins. And earlier this year, they did that to the Bills. I mean, they beat up on good teams, and then they go back, and it's like, hey, you lost to the Browns, and you lost to the Raiders, and they barely lost to the Chiefs. So when you get a good Ravens team, they beat the best teams in the league by a lot. That's why they're such an interesting team that, you know, it's like, all right, can you do that in the playoffs against the Chiefs? Because the Ravens' best is Lamar throwing it around, Lamar running in the design run game. Then now you've got Derrick Henry to hand the ball off to.
Good grief.
And then you have a good group of playmakers, right? They have a combination of speed and quickness and tight ends. Like they just have all the answers for opposing defenses. And when they put it all together, they drop 40 on the best teams in the league, like they did last week against Denver in a good defense. So Ravens are tough. If they play their game, I think that, I expect them to put up a lot of points.
Where do you rank the Ravens' skill talent in the league or AFC?
It's an interesting one because I think if you just dropped any quarterback on there, you wouldn't say, wow, look at that. You've got Zay Flowers and, you know, kind of an injured Mark Andrews, and you have Derrick Henry. I don't think you'd say, wow, but Lamar helps make all of that work because of his running ability. He helps open it up, so it's good. It's good for Baltimore. They're probably top 10, but again, I don't think we've ever looked at Lamar Jackson's career and said, man, he's just been blessed with so many weapons. If anything, it's been the other end, and then you look at his ability to create open throws and to put strain on the defense, basically, and that opens things up for all the playmakers.
All right, Lions, Texans. Are the Lions walking in because of what happened last weekend? Are the Lions kind of walking into a trap game, in your opinion?
I think maybe a little bit. It is interesting. We all tend to think week to week, and what was the last thing that we saw? And the Texans, the last thing we saw a week ago today was a very disappointing Thursday night game against the Jets, where they shut down the Jets' passing offense in the first half, and then they couldn't get anything going offensively. They couldn't put the ball in the end zone when they had opportunities. C.J. Stroud completed 11 passes and got sacked 8 times, which is a crazy ratio. So we saw a disappointing Texans team, but I still think they're really good. I still think they're a team that's capable. We've seen C.J. Stroud play much better football. They've run the ball more effectively this year than they did last year with Joe Mixon back there. And then their defense has the ability to get after the quarterback and to, just create tight window throws down the field. The big question last week was all of the receivers. They don't have Stephon Diggs is out for the year. But if Nico Collins comes back, this offense is different. So, yeah, I think Houston's better than what we saw last week with the Jets. And the Lions are starting to probably become this team where they might be getting everybody's best shot now. It's like, hey, the best team in the NFC is coming to town. Let's give it a good shot here. Let's get after them. So I think it'll be a good one. I think it's the game of the week, Lions and Texans, and we'll see if the Texans can get back on track because they need it. They kind of blew it, I think, in that second half against the Jets.
NFL insider Steve Palazzolo, his show, Check the Mic. He joins us on the Farm Bureau Insurance guest line. We are the Out of Bounds Show, ESPN 105.9 The Zone. Good game tonight, and I know we'll get some good games over the weekend. Is there a quarterback or a team that we're not talking about that is somebody who covers this every day, all day, that you're sitting there looking at them and going, man, that trajectory or that QB or this team is trending in the right direction, but because we talk about X amount of teams and X amount of quarterbacks, nobody's talking about that person or that team?
Okay, that's an interesting one as far as the trajectory goes. I'll say the Arizona Cardinals, I think, are the most difficult team for me to figure out every single week because I think their talent level is not good. It's just not good. But they're 5-4, and there's a few weeks where Kyler Murray looks like a top 3 quarterback in the NFL. That's happened about 2 or 3 times this year, where he is just out of his mind good. And when you pair that with Marvin Harrison Jr. at receiver, Trey McBride is a very good tight end, that trio can carry Arizona. And then they went out last week and dominated the Bears defensively. In Arizona, I mean, if you just look at their depth chart, they've got no good pass rushers by name. They have no one really good in the secondary besides Budda Baker by name, and they get it done. And so Arizona is the team to me that if Jonathan Gannon's in his second year as head coach, I'm almost of the mind, like, if you give him better players, my expectations are through the roof for what Arizona's capable of, because I think they've put it together with a subpar roster, and then, a guy like Kyler Murray and a couple of his pass catchers just, putting the team on their back. So maybe not exactly the way you're asking, but Arizona's the team I'm keeping a close eye on because I think they have incredible potential, and one more offseason of adding talent, I think they could be even more dangerous.
Interesting. Okay. Steve Palazzolo on the Out of Bounds Show. All right, one of the big games this weekend, Steelers-Commanders. Steelers 6-2. Commanders 7-2. Jaden Daniels is the talk of the league and talk of the town. These are 2 blue blood programs, franchises. Even though the Commanders have decided not to win for 25 years. I grew up with them, man. I mean, Joe Gibbs and Joe Theismann and John Riggins and the Hogs and Art Monk and Darryl Green and so on. And even won it with Mark Rippon bled into the 90s somehow. But Snyder tanked it. Now they're coming back. Steelers, Commanders, don't you consider – is this the game of the week or number 2 for you? How do you see it?
Yeah, it's right up there. Probably number 2 for me. I think we'll see what the Steelers are. At 6-2, it's probably the best Steelers team they've had in a few years. Having Russell Wilson in there now, he's done a nice job throwing the ball down the field. They add Mike Williams to the mix at receiver, so I think they've raised the ceiling of that offense with Russell Wilson rather than Justin Fields is the way I would describe it. So I think that's dangerous. And then the Steelers have the best pass rush in the NFL. They have T.J. Watt. Cameron Hayward's playing really well in his mid-30s right now. Alex Highsmith on the other side. They're going to get Nick Herbig, who's a great edge rusher, on the other side. So I think they're going to challenge Washington's offense, who is just incredibly efficient. And you asked about rebuilding teams or teams trending. In the NFL, I mean, if Washington keeps this up, this is a one-year rebuild to put them back on the map, which is incredible, especially in the East where the Cowboys look stronger and the Eagles have been strong and still are. Washington has an incredible stretch right now, though. They got the Steelers Sunday, and then they come back on Thursday to play Philadelphia. So in a 4-day window here, we're going to learn a lot about a 2-loss Commander team if they can hang with some of the better teams in the NFL. So I'm real interested in this. I think Jaden Daniels has been outstanding. I think he's playing an efficient level of football that's just a little different, right? It's just like high completion percentages, guys getting open, and then him scrambling and keeping the offense on track. They don't take a lot of negative plays. They've got the fewest turnovers since like 1973 through 9 games. It's crazy. They only have 3 turnovers. So those are the types of things to keep an eye on. The 2 ones I would say, the turnover regression, because turnovers are a little fluky and lucky at the end of the day. So does that come back to bite them at some point where the ball doesn't bounce their way?
Mm.
And then Cliff Kingsbury, when he was with Arizona, had a lot of really good first halves of the season where he faded as a play caller. So keep an eye on that with Washington. So that's what I'll be watching closely. But I'm so impressed with what Adam Peters, the GM, Dan Quinn, the head coach, have done with Washington at this point.
What's the GM's name again, Steve?
Adam Peters. He came over from San Francisco, and they really gutted the roster this offseason. So they brought in about 10 draft picks, a whole bunch of mid-tier, second-tier type of free agents, and they've really reshaped the roster in 1 year. So Adam Peters has done a great job.
Okay. So he was under John Lynch in San Francisco. Okay, cool. Steve Palazzolo, NFL Insider, his show Check the Mic. He joins us on ESPN 105.9 The Zone. And it's brought to you by the amazing nachos and wings and Stella Artois at Martin's in Livingston. Great place to watch SEC football in the NFL. All right, let's go to Harbaugh. It's been quiet. I guess that happens in the NFL when there's so many big names and big franchises and you're way out west and you're not the main deal out there. They're 5-3. They're lucky enough to host the Titans, who are an absolute wreck and mess. Where are you? Give me a grade. Where are you with Harbaugh and the Chargers?
They're just a fascinating team because early in the season, it felt like they already started playing Harbaugh. They already started, right? It was run game, defense. I was joking that Justin Herbert was putting up J.J. McCarthy stat lines. He'd be, 16 for 26 for $130, and no picks, and they'd win, right? But Herbert's healthy now, and he's throwing the ball much better, and so they actually have a passing attack. And the thing the Chargers have done is play defense well. Jameis Winston had a great game the previous week against the Baltimore Ravens. They shut down that passing offense of the Browns, and they've been doing that every single week. The pass defense from Jesse Minter, who came over from Michigan, and it's all in that Baltimore Ravens new style, that Mike Macdonald scheme. Mike Macdonald went to Seattle, but a similar scheme where you're, creating some havoc up front, some creative pressures, but you're keeping a cap, keeping the top on the defense to make sure that you're not giving up big plays. Chargers have done a great job with that. So they're playing really good defense. They're running the ball a little bit better, and now Herbert's playing pretty well. So I think they're a dangerous team. They got to stay healthy. But yeah, Herbert being healthier now, I think makes them all the more dangerous. And they're one of the teams because Herbert's really good. And I think we forgot that for a little while because he was hurt. And
yeah, he is.
I think kind of kept in check a little bit because of their playmakers. But the second round wide receiver, Ladd McConkey, looks great.
Yeah.
And so they're starting to gel offensively. So keep an eye on the Chargers. I think they have a chance to make a run because they're talented and they're playing better defense than they have in a long, long time. All
right, let's do some rapid fire with Steve Palazzolo. Let's just go through some things. Are you sold on the Philadelphia Eagles, that they're back?
I always have a soft spot for the Eagles. I think their ceiling is high, just when it's all cooking. they're really good. Sirianni's fascinating. He could blow it all up, I think, at some point. But I think the Eagles, they're back, and Saquon is special. And look, we talk a lot about running backs here, Bo. The running back doesn't look special. He can't look special unless all the other pieces are in place. And the Eagles have the O-line, the other playmakers, the quarterback, and then Saquon's the cherry on top, just like Derrick Henry's a cherry on top of all that other stuff. That's why it's been a good fit for Philadelphia.
It's a great point. Is the NFC North the best division in pro football?
Yeah, I think so. I thought that coming into the season. Lions are great. Packers are still good. Don't sleep on them just because they lost last week. The Vikings bounced back last week. They're 6-2, can still play defense. Offense is really scary with TJ Hawkinson back at tight end. The Bears are a little iffier, but again, they've got the potential. Good defense. Got to figure out a rhythm for Caleb Williams. So, I think top to bottom, it's the best division.
How dangerous, if at all, are the Atlanta Falcons?
Oh, I think they're dangerous, and they're creating a lot of separation in the South. I mean, the Bucs are their top contender, and they're a couple games. They already beat them twice. They're a couple games ahead of them. The Bucs have to go play. They got to play San Francisco this week. Falcons look really good in that division. They can run the ball effectively. Kirk Cousins playing really efficient. I'm a little worried about Atlanta's defense. They're hanging in there right now, but they're not dynamic defensively, but they're good enough. But that offense is tough, and they've done a great job getting all those playmakers that we've been listing for years, Drake London and Kyle Pitts and Bijan Robinson, getting all those guys involved and making life difficult for opposing defenses. So, yeah, I like the Falcons.
When you look at the AFC, if somehow they stay healthy, are the Pittsburgh Steelers the biggest threat for KC because of what you hit 10 or so minutes ago with their pass rush? Because they could really mess some things up in a January game where it's cold as all get out because of what they can do in the pocket to the quarterback?
Yeah, I don't know if they're the biggest threat. I mean, maybe in a one-game setting, you could see that. And again, Russell Wilson's going to be interesting here because he's 4 years removed from playing his best football. But he looks a little better, than he has the last couple of years. Mm-hmm. So I think where Russell Wilson, if he starts to regress a little bit or look like he's a mid-30s, Russell Wilson, then maybe they're not as good. But if he just keeps playing clean football, they are dangerous. I don't think they're more dangerous than Buffalo, Baltimore, and some of the other teams. Maybe the Chargers, if they stay on track and healthy against Kansas City. But in a one-game setting, yeah, I think Pittsburgh can cause some problems. And Mike Tomlin's a really good coach, man, and it's so tough to judge coaches because the quarterback is such a big driver. And I think that's where Tomlin brings that consistency. And even if he has a couple of years with Kenny Pickett as his quarterback, we can't forget that he's a really good coach, a really good motivator, and he always gets the most out of his team. And especially in that one-game setting, could be something where they could go into Kansas City and upset the Chiefs.
Are we sleeping on the Bills? Because the Chiefs are 8-0, and the other teams that we're talking about are the Steelers and the Ravens, just because they're the Steelers and the Ravens and because Lamar's at the Ravens. Buffalo 7-2. Are we sleeping on them, Steve?
Yeah, I mean, they got beat pretty badly by Baltimore, so I think that sticks in people's minds. The best team that they played, they got waxed pretty good. But yeah, I mean, you can never sleep on Buffalo because in any given game, Josh Allen could play superhuman, but he's actually playing within himself. He's got more yards after the catch than he's ever had. So he's letting the other playmakers do the work. The offense is letting everyone get involved. So they have maybe more answers to win than they've had the last couple of years. Defense has been a little up and down, and they've dealt with a bunch of injuries again for the second or third straight year. But yeah, I think Buffalo, they'll be right in the mix, man. And if we get into January and you get another Bills go to Kansas City and Baltimore plays Kansas City, we're going to have a whole bunch of good games once again in Buffalo. They'll be right in the mix to make that run.
I don't know what this text is, but I've only got a minute here. Somebody asked me if you've ever been to the starting lineup Kenner Museum in Cincinnati.
Oh, no. I mean, Kenner made starting lineups. I did not know that existed in Cincinnati. I've been to the Louisville Bat Company down in Louisville, about an hour and a half from here. But
okay.
I didn't know the starting lineup museum was over here. I'll check it out. Bring the kids.
Okay. May have to get a little more info from Sun Devil Macy on the he's our Arizona State grad on the text line. Interesting. Okay. Well, the Saints and Cowboys are a disaster, so that's why I didn't start the interview with them. And I didn't think that I could dislike Jerry and Steven more, but then they said, hold my beer. And so there you go. I listened to the Ed Werder interview yesterday in Dallas on the ticket and just wanted to throw up. And so there, I'll leave that to you. Other than that, I hope you have a phenomenal football and NFL week. Are you going to watch Are you going to watch Georgia and Ole Miss or Bama and LSU or catch pieces of it?
Yeah, I'll be keeping up with the college. I'm actually doing some consulting at the college level now, helping out with portal with certain teams and everything. So yeah, I've been keeping a close eye on college. I'll be watching this weekend.
I love it. All right, have some of that Make sure to triple order the Skyline chili. We love you and have a good weekend.
Oh, yeah. I'll send you pictures of our Skyline trip next time.
All right, see you, buddy.
All righty. Thank you.
Steve Palazzolo on the Out of Bounds show that's brought to you by Core Wellness and Recovery in the Township. So we've told you about the cryotherapy, which is amazing. It only takes, like, even Jackson Meadows could do it. Oh, I got to get with Tommy and Heather. You got to get in. You got to go to the cryotherapy because you're way more ADD than I. You can't sit down for more than 5 minutes. It only takes 3 minutes or 4 something. So cryotherapy is amazing. You're feeling fatigued. Your body needs, it's so good for you. Again, pro athletes, but other people do it. You're hustling and bustling. You're working. You're managing life. Cryotherapy is amazing. I've told you all this. I found out about it when Laquan Treadwell started talking about it in 2013 or 2014. And he was like, yeah, I jump in the cryotherapy chamber and I'm rejuvenated. It's good for you. But they also have red light therapy at Core Wellness and Recovery in the Township. They have IV therapy. Sometimes you need that before a big weekend, like Ole Miss fans do today or tomorrow, or after the weekend, or if you're just a workout freak and you're blowing and going, IV therapy. And they've got, it's full of wonderful stuff to boost the immune system, vitamin C and zinc and D and all that kind of good stuff. But they also have TED hair restoration. So if you're showing early signs of hair loss, I wish they'd have had it 20 years ago, as a male or female, they are having a lot of success at Core Wellness and Recovery in the Township. TED hair restoration, state-of-the-art equipment. If you're showing early signs of hair loss, Core Wellness and Recovery in the Township. Nathan McCarty at 9:30.